Are you curious about the 1-3 profile and what this little fraction looking number means for you? Well, don't worry, you're in the right place because by the end of this video, you'll get the answers to the following questions. What is the 1-3 profile? What are the characteristics of the 1-3 profile? What is the public role and leadership style of the 1-3? What are the keys to health and happiness for the 1-3s? And I'll also be going through some famous examples of people who have 1-3 profiles so that you have an idea of what this might look like in real life. So if you enjoy this video and want to continue to learn and deepen your understanding of human design, I'd be so grateful if you could show me some support by hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Crystal Alferrero. I'm founder of the Human Design Academy and I help people like yourselves understand your unique energetic blueprint through the human design system. So profiles and lines in human design have grown to be one of my favorite things to dive into and talk about because there is just so much insight that you can get from this particular aspect of your design, from your approach to life, to how you think and learn, to your life path, to even your bonding strategy, and so much more. It's also known to represent your public role and the costume you wear in your life. So I'm going to be doing a series on all of the 12 profiles to help you learn a little bit more about yourself or your loved ones. Now, I wanted to kick off this profile series with the 1-3 profile because it's near and dear to my heart since it's my personal profile and also my partner's profile. So I'm very familiar with it and how it manifests in different ways. And I can't wait to share some of these experiences with you. So if you're ready to dive in, let's just go do it. So what is the 1-3 profile? Well, the 1-3 profile is the investigator martyr. And in general, these are the types of people who, to the outside world, might come across as if they're impulsive and stubborn and just like to dive into things. They don't listen to anyone else. They need to kind of just go out there and do it for themselves. It might look like they're being irrational at times, but what others don't necessarily see that these 1-3s actually see in themselves is that they've done their research and their investigation for the most part, or at least enough to feel comfortable and safe in what they're doing. And they can sometimes be secretive about their investigations until they have a solid foundation on things, and they often don't really communicate what they're investigating until they've established a bit of that foundation. And to understand why this all is, we're going to break down the components of the 1-3 profile. So what does the 1-3 profile consist of? Well, the 1-3 profile consists of the conscious line 1 investigator and the unconscious line 3 martyr, which come together to create the investigator martyr profile. And just to give you a little recap, each of the 6 lines of the hexagram have a specific frequency or flavor, and it's in this unique combination that the profile is created. It's one of the 7 personal profiles, so the 1-3 is one of the 7 personal profiles, which means that they have a life theme that's focused on self-discovery and self-growth. So it's a personal destiny that they're here to fulfill. In the 1-3 profile, the first line is the investigator archetype, and this is what represents the conscious personality, the mind, and how they think, because this number is on the top side of this fraction. It's from the conscious side. So this side of their nature is conscious to them. They have conscious access to this side of them. It's how they see themselves. And this is, again, the researcher side of them that seeks a solid foundation of knowledge to stand on. So they're insecure until they have this solid foundation. While the third line is the martyr archetype. And this represents the unconscious design, the body and their physical experience, because this number is on the bottom half of that fraction. So this is the side of their nature that's not something that they have conscious access to. They might not even see themselves necessarily as this martyr type or as this experiential learner. But it's just that automatic script that moves them without conscious awareness to it. And again, like this is that more experiential side of them that has this trial and error nature, who bumps into things, who needs to experience life for themselves in order to find the truth around what works and what doesn't. And they're here to share that with others. Your profile is something that you grow into. So it's said that in theory, the needs of the conscious line often need to be fulfilled first in order to live out the highest expression of their unconscious line. So in the case of a 1-3, throughout their lifetime, They really need to focus on building a solid foundation in a certain area of expertise in order to give them secure grounding in their trial and error process and ultimately become an authority for other people who speak their expertise, right? But at the end of the day, obviously, both of these different sides of themselves work together. They work side by side. And the way that you'll be able to live out the highest expression of your profile is simply by following your personal strategy and authority. So next, what are the characteristics of the conscious line 1 of their profile? So as I mentioned earlier, the first line investigator is the type to be constantly researching and investigating and ultimately seeking that solid foundation of information in order to feel secure and confident. These are the types to go down those rabbit holes. And, I have a line 1 in my profile, and I also have 5 other line 1s in my chart. And I can confirm that it's like once I start learning about something, I can't stop until my brain gets fried. Yeah, I know. But this is why human design was perfect for me, because there's just so much to dig into. There's so many layers. So this is like candy for my mind. But if you have a line 1 in your profile, you're someone who's here to share this wealth of information with others, right? Your findings and your research. All of this stuff is what helps you become a natural teacher, because you have such a solid foundation of knowledge. You're here to be a resource for others. And these are the ones that you can tend to rely on to have all their bases covered. Sometimes gray areas can tend to make line 1s feel weak and uncomfortable. And this is what pushes them and drives them to seek answers. They're also open and willing students that are on a path to develop strength through really mastery. Line 1s are also known to be very introspective, and they actually find strength in establishing themselves as authorities, because this is what gives them that solid foundation and that sense of control. And while this investigation is healthy for them, and it's what gives them a secure grounding for their trial and error process, at the same time, they need to be cautious of just hiding behind the books and feeling like they never know enough, because it's very, very common for a lot of line 1s to do all that investigating, going down those rabbit holes, and never actually come out to share it and externalize it with others. And so they might have a tendency to avoid drawing too much attention to themselves until they feel secure as an authority. So again, it's just bringing awareness to this trap where they constantly feel like they don't know enough and then stop themselves from sharing and making an impact with what they do know. Because the reality is that you can always find more to investigate. So it's really important for you, if you have a line 1 in your chart, to use your authority in discerning whether you're just avoiding sharing because you don't really know enough, or if it's this fear of inadequacy that just keeps you stuck. Next, what are the characteristics of the unconscious line 3 of this profile? Well, their martyr body, which is that line 3, is designed to discover how to navigate the material plane by bumping into things. It's all about discovery through trial and error. They're one of the most adaptable and resilient types because they're so used to quote unquote failing, but they're always able to quickly pick themselves up again and also share what works and what doesn't with others. So this unconscious side of them, again, like naturally bumps into things and makes these accidental discoveries. And this is how they come to their own truth and their own conclusions. They're often going where other people don't. So this is what makes them pioneers in their respective fields. In other words, they're constantly making new discoveries and gathering wisdom through experience that they can share with others. The line 3 also has a bonding strategy of bonds made and broken. So when something isn't working out, there is this tendency to just break off the relationship or break off whatever bond that is and move on. So you can see this potential pattern with a lot of line 3s who might have gone through many different relationships, or go through patterns of breakup and get back together, or even go through a lot of jobs in their lifetime. They just have that way of, leaving something or breaking that bond if it's no longer serving them. In the lower expression of the martyr, the line 3, they might be ungrounded in their trial and error and end up being accident prone, or might not be able to learn from their mistakes. And this often happens when they're not grounded in their investigations or their personal authority before jumping into something. They might have a tendency to be escapists and run away from their problems when they're in an unbalanced state. I've been there. It's okay. There's no shame there. But at least I know this now. As a martyr, this is the side of you that you can't necessarily control because it's unconscious. And the way that you're going to be able to live out the highest expression of this is, again, by discerning with your strategy and authority which investigations to go into and which experiences to jump into. So if you have a 1-3 profile, let me know in the comments how your experience is with your 1-3. So what is the public role and leadership style of the 1-3 profile? Well, ultimately 1-3s are meant to become knowledgeable authorities in their field of expertise. So their public role is known as the authority pioneer because they're here to externalize and share the knowledge that they've gained through their investigations and through the wisdom that they've gained through their discoveries, their experiences, and their experiments. Their leadership style is the authoritarian nature of the line 1. So like their public role implies, these are people who lead through knowledge and establish themselves as authorities. The leadership style of the line 3 is also known as the anarchist, which is all about rejection of any institutionalized order. So there's a rebellious nature to the line 3 that breaks the rules in order to see what's working, what's not, and to be a pioneer of new, more effective paths. So what's the key to health and happiness for 1-3s? Well, for 1-3s to thrive, it's important that they have the freedom and autonomy to move from one discovery to the next and embrace their trial and error process. In other words, it's really important for them to have space to explore and not be shamed for making mistakes, but rather encouraged to make discoveries and learn from their experience. You know, they need to let go of any conditioning that says it's wrong to make mistakes because this is actually what's right for them. This is their process. You know, they need to experience things for themselves through that direct experience in order to discover and learn. Embracing failure is actually what a lot of tech companies encourage in their culture because it's through failure that you can make these quick discoveries and iterations in order to innovate. When you are so focused on not making mistakes, you become too afraid to think outside of the box, and this is actually what can inhibit innovation and change. So for a 1-3, being in an environment where experimentation is encouraged can be very, very helpful. And this is why entrepreneurship can actually be a very great option for them. And when it comes to discovering new truths, it's really important to empower 1-3s around you to speak their truth about what works and what doesn't. So last but not least, who are some famous 1-3s? Well, we have Beyonce, who's a 1-3 sacral manifesting generator, and Jeff Bezos, who's a 1-3 splenic projector. We can see in both of these cases, you have two people who have very diverse paths, very diverse career paths, and have many different roles in their career and are multi-talented in their respective fields. So with Beyonce, she started her career as a child doing singing and dancing competitions, and then moved on to being lead singer in Destiny's Child, of course, to going solo and becoming a musical icon. You know, she wouldn't have gotten to where she was without just getting out there and learning through experience. Her father was also her manager for a very long time. And while he helped her reach a certain level of fame, there came a point where he was no longer serving her in her career. And he maybe wasn't giving Beyonce the autonomy she needed to explore and thrive in other areas of her life. So she had to break that bond. She had to cut ties with him as a manager. And it was really when she broke free that she became more than just a musical icon and was able to venture out into so many other areas, including activism and fashion and business. So specifically, she launched her fashion line, House of Darion, which ended up closing in 2012, but she continues in the business world through her company and record label Parkwood Entertainment. So with Jeff, on the other hand, whether you like him or not, he's the founder and former CEO of Amazon, and he got to where he was by starting off with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science. And he worked in a bunch of different industries until he founded Amazon. And again, you can see that over time, he became an authority in the e-commerce world. But he's also, the epitome of having that entrepreneur spirit. And he didn't get there by just standing on the sidelines and waiting for the perfect time to do things. He did it in true line 3 fashion through trial and error, right? So you can see how the 1-3 profile really played out for both of these people, even though they're totally different, but they have a lot of similarities. So now we've come to the end of this video, but if you're wanting to get that extra help to understand your profile and get a holistic overview of this aspect in the context of your chart, I do offer one-on-one human design readings that include a 90-minute Zoom call. Plus, you get a customized 30-page human design blueprint for your own learning and reflection that you can always use as a wonderful resource guide. And I'll leave all of the information and the link for you in the description down below. And this brings me to the end of this episode where we answered the following questions. What is the 1-3 profile? What are the characteristics of the 1-3 profile? What is the public role and leadership style of the 1-3? What are the keys to health and happiness for 1-3s, and who are some famous 1-3s? So if you enjoyed this video, I'd be so grateful if you could show me some love, hit that like button, and hit subscribe to continue learning more about the wonderful and insightful human design system. So with that said, have an amazing day or evening wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.